این گفتن پاسدار در باز کن. من در یکم باز کردم و از اونا طلب به اصطلاح ورقه هویت خواستم. همینجور که دستشو فشار داد آورد تو که کاغذ ورقه هویت رو من بده، فشار دادن در رو به زور اومدن تو.
Once they knocked on the door, I opened the door slightly and asked them to show me some sort of document. They said they were the Pasdaran, the militias, and they opened. I wanted to look at their papers, but they forced themselves and they came into the house.
و وقتی در باز شد، اولین کسی که وارد شد همین آقای احمدی نژاد بود که با مشت زد توی دهان من و دندانهای من رو خورد کرد و الان میتونم نشون بدم. آقای
The first person who opened the door and came in, it was Ahmadinejad.
And he
He hit me in my jaw and broke my teeth.
broke his jaw.
Broke his jaw.
و فک منو شکست و دندانهای من شکست از پایین و از بالا.
He broke my jaw and also my teeth from up and down.
و من نمیتونستم دفاع کنم از خودم چون تقریبا در حدود 20-25 نفر بودن.
There were about 20-25 people. I couldn't defend myself.
و همشون مسلح
And they were all armed.
و تمام منزل رو گشتن دنبال بنی صدر.
And they were looking all over my house for Bani Sadr.
در حالی که من با بنی صدر اصلا نسبتی نداشتم و نمیشناختمش و نمیدونستم کیه و چرا اومده بودن توی آپارتمان من میگشتن دنبال بنی صدر.
Bani Sadr is the former president of Iran.
Even though I did not have any relation, I didn't know who was Bani Sadr and what was Bani Sadr supposedly doing in my apartment, but they were looking for him over there.
به هر حال منو مجروح گذاشته و رفتن. منم دستم به جایی بند نبود. یک درمانگاهی بود در تهران به نام درمانگاه احسان در خیابان تخت شمشید و ویلا.
They left me with all my injuries at home and they just left, so I had to go and find a place for
درمانگاه احسان
the dispensary of Ehsan.
رفتم اونجا برای البته فردا صبحش به هر ترتیب بود خودم نگه داشتم. صبحش اونجا معالجه کردیم اینا و این به هر حال مجبور شدم از این طریق فرار کنم از ایران. همون آخوندی که اون گذرنامه رو برای من درست کرده بود.
Finally, the next day I went to doctors and with the help of the same religious guy, a mullah that had prepared me the passport to leave.
قبل از اینکه این مسئله اتفاق بیفته، درست موقعی که انقلاب تازه شروع شده بود، من فراموش کردم بگم، چون من با پن امریکن و به هلیکوپتر مقاده کار اونها بودم کار میکردم، ماشین بهشون کرایه میدادم.
I forgot to say at the beginning of my statement that the taxi company that I had, I was giving taxis and cars to Bell Helicopter and Pan American.
مرکز فعالیت من تو هتل اینترکانتیننتال بود در تهران.
And my center of operation was in Intercontinental Hotel.
و وقتی که اونجا رو محاصره کرده بودن، مدیر وقت هتل اینترکانتیننتال یک آمریکایی بود به اسم هوگلند.
And the gentleman who was managing the Intercontinental at that time, his name was Hoagland.
به من تلفن کرد گفت اینها محاصره کردن منو گرسنه گرسنن، من میخوام نمیدونم چیکار بکنم، میتونی بیای من رو ببری فرودگاه؟ گفتم بله.
And at the beginning, Mr. Hoagland called him and told him that the hotel is under siege and he cannot leave if they don't have any more food, and if he could come to take him to the airport, and he said yes, he would do it.
نصف شب بود که من از در پشتی هتل رفتم بالا و این آقای هوگلند رو بردم به فرودگاه و روانه آمریکا شد.
And finally, in the middle of the night, I was able to reach him and take him to the airport to leave Iran, come to the United States.
قبل از اینکه وارد فرودگاه بشه به من گفت یک آمریکایی سرهنگه که الان من اسمشو نمیدونم، ولی این آقایی که اینجا این هستش اصلا اینا شاید بدونم، که به شما تلفن خواهد کرد خانواده های آمریکایی رو در هتل هیلتون همه رو اونجا جا دادن که از خونه‌هاشون آوردن بیرون.
Before he left, he told him that most of the American families have been kept in the Hilton Hotel, and this was there's a colonel, American colonel, who's going to contact him.
به من تلفن کرد این آقای سرهنگ، گفت این خانواده رو از شما می‌خوایم که بلافاصله به مهرآباد ببرید.
And the colonel later on called him and asked him to evacuate the Americans from Hilton Hotel to the Mehrabad airport.
و من این کارو کردم با مینیبوسایی که داشتم، اینها رو شبانه از ساعت 1 تا 4 صبح همه رو روانه بردیم به فرودگاه مهرآباد و روانه آمریکا کردیم.
I was able to do that with the minibuses that I had. In the middle of the night, we took him to the airport.
و یکی از این آقا اگه اینجا بود الان نمیدونم، شاید اون میدونه اسم اون سرهنگ چیه و این بود ماجرای ما.
Unfortunately, I don't know the name of that colonel, but someone of the hostages, they might know it.
On what he had told me, it could be Colonel Scott, Chuck Scott.
ممکنه، نمیدونم، من یادم نیست، چون الان 25 سال از اون مسئله گذشته، ولی میدونم این عکس رو که دیدم این آقای احمدی نژاد همون آقای احمدی نژادی است که هم هاستجا رو گرفته هم با مشت نامردانه زد توی فکر.
When I saw his picture, I'm sure that Mr. Ahmadinejad is the same person who broke my jaw and also had taken the hostages.
عرضی ندارم، تشکر می‌کنم.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we have Mr. Purat.
میکروفون رو
And then they went to my daughter's room and they did the same thing for them. They took him to the hallway, told them to put their hand on the wall and face the wall and don't make a noise.
به پسر 9 سالم هم همینطور اونا از تو خواب بیدارش کردن، کشوندن آوردنش توی خواب.
Also my 9 years old son.
به بعد همه ما را در یک فورواینڈری چشمامون رو بستن و کف اون ماشین خوابوندن.
یک ماشینایی که فوروایندر هست 4 ویل.
Then they took all of us in a four-wheel drive car and they put us all on the floor of the car with our eyes with blindfolded.
ما را بردن به مجلس سابق شورای ملی.
They took us to the old Parliament House.
اونجا کمیته مرکز بود و من از پلاش فهمیدم که شناختم که اینجا مجلس شورای ملی سابقه.
Central Committee of Revolution was there.
زیر زمین اونجا رو تبدیل کرده بودن به سلولای خیلی کوچیک.
I was taken to the parliament and I know, even though I was blindfolded by the steps, I noticed where we were, and the Revolutionary Central Committee was organized in that building, and they had changed in the basement. They had made it to prison cells.
بچه‌ها با خانم در یه اتاقی زندانی کردن، منو به تنهایی در یک زندان و نوار گذاشته بودن اونجا، نوارهای تلفن من رو که یکی یکی به از اونا میپرسیدن این اشخاص کی هستن.
They took me in one isolated room and my wife and the kids into another room, and then they had recording of my calls, and they were asking me for each call who were these people that you had called.
من به وسیله پسر کوچکم که بین دوتا اتاق رفت و آمد میکرد به من گفت که نوار گذاشتن، نوارات همه را صداها ضبط شده و یکی یکی میپرسن این افراد کیا هستن.
And they were asking the same question from the rest of the family, and he found that out by his 9-year-old son.
بعداً صبح که شد بچه‌های من رو بردن فرستادن خونه و شکنجه من از ساعت 10 صبح شروع شد.
The next day they sent my family home, but my torture started at 10 o'clock in the morning.
من با تیمسار کورنگی همسایه بودم، دوست بودم و رفت آمد و معاشرت داشتیم.
I was a neighbor and a friend of General Kurangi, and we used to see each other very often.
تیمسار کورنگی رئیس زندان قصر بوده و بعد خیلی در موقعی که اینها سران جمهوری اسلامی زندانی بودن در زمان شاه این به اونها محبت میکرده.
Kurangi was Qasr prison. He was in charge of Qasr prison, and when these people who are now in the government, they were at the prison, he was very kind to them.
و بعد از انقلاب او را کردن رئیس شهربانی.
After the revolution, he became to be the
Head of the police.
head of the police department.
Police department.
و بعد از من میپرسیدن که تیمسار کورنگی را تو از کجا فهمیدی که بهش خبر دادی فوری فرار بکنه از ایران بره بیرون.
They were accusing him how you told Kurangi
How did you help Kurangi
to leave Iran.
من گفتم که کورنگی رئیس شهربانی شماست و با من یک دوست عادیه. من کاری با رفتن اون نداشتم. او فقط خداحافظی کرد از من که میخواست بره بچه هاشو ببینه و من کورنگی را 1 ماه دیگه به شما تحویل میدم. اگر کورنگی نیومد منو اعدام کنید. این فرار نکرده.
And they were accusing him to have helped Kurangi to leave Iran, and they asked him, how come you did that, and how did you know this? And he said he was just a friend, and I don't know anything about his leaving, and I'm sure he's coming back. I promise you that he's going to come back.
Our Dr. Esfandiyari, our Kurdish friend, tells me that his bus is leaving at 5. He has to leave. I asked Mr. Pura to be kind enough to allow him to answer any questions you have for him, for Dr. Esfandiyari. If you have any questions, you can ask him. Yes.
Our country free, and you get to your land and get what you ask, and always fight for it.
Within an Iranian
Yes, with Iranian government. With this
sovereign Iran.
Yeah.
We are envisioning a Iran that all of the Iranian can live in coexistence with each other. And we believe that only with a voluntary representations of people we can form a democratic government that belongs to all Iranians, regardless of being Kurd, Baluch, Turk, Arab, Turkoman, or Persian, or any religion or creed or any type of those type of labels that comes with our people. We envision a federal Iran that intacts the territorial integrity of Iran, and within that federations, we believe that we can live in coexistence with each other as we have through the years in the past history up to now.
Do you have a country that you want to copy and say, for example, we want to be Iran future for us will be like this country?
Well, I'm hoping that we form a model of federal government that fits Iranian people. Certainly, democracy and federalism is not something that we have invented. So we are forced to copy some of the free countries that they have adopted such models, and they have been successful with it. Germany, for example, is a good example to follow. Canada is a good example to follow for future federal Iran. And we believe that coexistence with each other will resolve all the difficulties that exist within Iran right now.
Thank you very much.
Any other question? Question for only Dr. Esfandiyari.
No.
No question? Thank you very much for
And
your
I thank you,
explanation.
Dr. Ganji, personally, and I thank you, all of you, for listening to me. And I apologize for not being very representative because of my voice and the fact that I have been chanting all day.
Yeah. You see, this kind of exercise removes all these misgivings some people have too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Now we
much.
go to Mr. Purat and we finish in about 2-3 minutes. Then we have questions for the former hostages and the two gentlemen.
ضربایی که به من میزدن با یک تصمیم پروانه لودر بود، چون که ماشین سواری به اون زخمی
My
تصمیم
torture
پروانه
started,
نداشت.
my torture started at 10 o'clock in the morning, and they were beating me with a wire cable.
No.
No, belt.
Fan belt. Fan belt.
Fan belt.
Belt.
Fan belt.
Belt of
Fan belt for a bulldozer or something. Heavy machinery. Explain to them.
بله با اون میزدن. ضربه اول که میزدن من بیهوش میشدم. چشمو باز میکردم میدیدم من تو بیمارستانم به چند تا دکتر دوره برم و اون پاسارایی که منو میزدن اونا هم دوره برم.
With the first lash, I would pass out. When I would open my eyes, I would find myself in the hospital with the doctors around me, and the torturers also were present.
چشمو باز میکردم 2 مرتبه بیهوش میشدم. می آوردن منو توی بند، توی زندان و 2 مرتبه فردا صبح شروع میشد.
And with
7 روز تمام منو شکنجه دادن.
I would open my eyes, and then they would take me back to the prison. The next day, it would be the same thing. They would torture me. I would pass out, and would take me to a hospital and back. This thing continued for 8 days.
هیپ منو شکستن،
They broke my hip.
زانومو شکستن،
They broke my knee.
کمر با ضربه شدید زدن، ضربه زدن به فتحم که اینجا اومدم عمل کردم. من وقتی که اومدم امریکا کاملا فلج بودم. به پرونده دکتری من
They hit my waist and also my hernia. And when I came to the United States, I had to go through surgeries, and I was completely paralyzed.
و بعد از اینکه از زندان بیرون اومدم در اثر خوردن اون آب گوشتشون که خیلی ها به این ناراحتی ها دچار شدن بعد از اینکه زندانیشون تموم شده، این آب گوشت پی از قصابی ها جمع میکردن و لیمو عمانی میزدن، رو به گوجه فرنگی میزدن. اصلا زندانی ها متوجه نمی‌بودن که چی دارن میخورن. اینها انسداد شرایین می آورد و من تمام این شارگم که به اصطلاح اورت شکمی بهش میگن از زیر قلبم کاملا مچاله شده بود و گرفته شده بود تا میاد به این 2 تا پاها، 2 شاخه میشه به این 2 تا پا و اینا کمپلت شانس آوردن. پروفسور راستان به من رسید که این رگا برای من عوض کرد و یه رگی گذاشت که با یه نوع کاغذ کرافت درست شده بود.
He says while he was in the prison, they fed him lard made into a soup, and this lard caused coronary artery disease, and as a result of that, he had complications with vascular problems, and ended up getting multiple vascular surgeries.
بعد از اینکه شکنجه به اصطلاح تموم شد دیگه من امیدی به زنده بودن خودم نداشتم. 2 تا پاسدار اومدن، 2 تا دستای من را گذاشتن رو 2 تا شون خودشون و منو کشوندن به یه اتاقی که یه عمامه به سر اونجا بود، نمیشناختمش کیه. دیگه از زندگی تنگ اومده بودم دیگه، زندگی رو برای خودم چیز نمی کردم، دوست نداشتم که بیشتر زنده بمونم.
On his last torture session, he thought he wouldn't live anymore, and he got carried out by several revolutionary guards, and he was taken into a room where a religious cleric was there wearing a turban, and he's saying that at that point he didn't really care to live anymore.
در ظرف یک هفته که شکنجه دیدم درست 26 کیلو وزن کم کردم.
In a week's time that he was tortured, he lost 26 pounds.
26 kilo.
26 kilograms, sorry.
About 55 pounds.
و بعد وقتی که من آوردن اونجا این کاپ سر میز اون امامه به سر بود، این تسمه پروانه. من نگاه کردم به این و دوتا دستمو گذاشتم
میکروفون
روی-
بگیرین جلد.
دوتا دستمو گذاشتم رو میز و شروع کردم اینو بوسیدن. گفت چرا اونو میبوسی؟ گفتم این دینه، قربون این دین برم.
He says when he was taken to that room, there was the fan belt that they used to whip him with, and he started kissing it. And the religious cleric asked him why he was kissing it, and he says, "This is religion. I'd sacrifice myself for it. I love it."
اون پاسدار گفت حاج آقا اینجا میان شلوارشون رو زرد میکنن، این پیرمرد ببین چی داره میگه. اون از پشت میزش اومد و چشمند منو واکر سر پیشونی منو بوسید و گفت خب انقلاب اشتباه میشه، حالا میفرستیمت یه جایی که پروار بشی. مثل که میخواست گاو پروار کنه.
He says one of them kissed his forehead and says there's always mistakes made in revolution. And then we're going to send you someplace to fatten you up like a cow that has been fattened up for sale.
من را فرستادن با یک ماشین ونی که تمام شیشاش و اینا رنگ شده بود، هیچ روزنه‌ای نداشت. چشم ما بستن و منو انداختن اون تو، بردن توی یه سلولی چشمامو باز کردن. من نمیدونستم اونجا کجا بود، ولی یه پنجره داشت که هوا را نگاه میکردم، بعضی وقت یک کلاقی میامد با برون کرد. اما پذیراییشون از لحاظ غذا و رخت خواب و حموم و اینا خیلی مرتب بود. حتی دسر میدادن مثل نمیدونم هتل هایت بود. منو بردن بعد از چند روز عمومی، در اون زندان عمومی که زیر زمینی بود، عده زیادی بودن اونجا زندانی بودن. یک امریکایی بود که این از تگزاس اومده بود در ایران، خیلی پسر جوون و خوش‌سیمایی بود و ورزشکار بود. من به اون میگفتم تو چرا زندانی کردن؟ یه خورده موقع انگلیسی بلد بودم. بودم تو رو چرا زندانی کردن؟ گفت من آمدم آیت الله بشم، منو دستگیر کردن
He says afterwards he was blindfolded, put in a van without any windows, taken to another cell that the only thing was a little skylight where he could see birds fly over, and but the food condition was better. He even got some dessert, and after a while they fattened him up, they sent him up to the general ward. And he met an American prisoner there and asked him why the American was in prison, and he says, I came here to become an Ayatollah and they put me in prison.
بعد چند وقت منو بردن بازپرسی. از من پرسیدن که زکریا رستگار خونش کجاست. این دوست من بود. من خیلی ناراحت شدم و گفتم که من خونش رو بلدم ولی نمیتونم بهتون آدرس بدم چون که شمارش و اسم کوچه‌ش رو بلد نیستم، همینطوری باید برم. ولی خلاصه من این شماره رو چیزا بهش آدرس رو ندادم و گفتم که خیلی شما فکر میکنید که زرنگ هستید من یه اوراقی دارم که شما دسترسی بهش نداشتید و نتونستن اون همه که گشتن پیدا بکنن. من میخواستم که به این رستگار برسونم که فرار بکنه. این نقشم بود. بعد بهشون گفتم که ایچی گفت برو پایین تا خدمتت برسیم. بعد از یه نیم ساعت دیگه گفت میخوای زن بچه تا ببینی؟ گفتم البته که میخوام ببینم. زن بچه‌م خبر نداشتن که من کجا هستم. منو 2 مرتبه چشمو بستن، تو ماشین گذاشتن و نزدیک خونم که رسیدم اومدن پیاده شدم و پیاده بشو. اومد جلو، گفت جلو بیش. جلو نشسته بودی، به زن بچه‌م گفته بودن که میاد خونه شما رو ببینه.
He says they were questioning him about Mr. Zakaria Rastegar and want to know where the person lived, and he said he didn't know the exact street address but knew how to get there. At the same time, he was thinking to improvise a way for that gentleman to have a chance to escape. So he tells them that I have some documents that you've not seen. And then they mentioned that if he wanted to see his family, and then they made arrangements and put his wife and child in the front seat of the car, and he was in the back seat.
خلاصه اومدیم به خونه که رسیدیم، منظورم این بود که او را نجات بدم. با زبون محلی خودم به بچه ها گفتم که همیشه اون دوستم از زکریا بود، صداش میکردم زکی. به بچه ها گفتم که زکی بزه، یعنی زکی بره.
زکی بیزه؟
بله. اینا فقط از تو بچه ها یکیشون متوجه شد. به مادرش وقتی که من برگشتم زندان گفته بود که منظور بابایی بود که به زکریا ندا بدیم که فرار بکنه. همین کار کردیم، به فرار کرد. خوشبختانه یکی نجات پیدا کرد.
Says while in the car.
The story is very long, but since time is late, we are going to listen to him, or Iranian journalists, you should listen to him. He has a long story.
He says while in the car being taken back to his home, he told his family in Hebrew that to let Zakaria know that he needs to escape, and he did. He managed to save someone's life.
Open to you for your questions. Yes.
Ken, gentlemen, not sure.
So, you know, neither of these are going.
Okay,
It's important.
let's turn the. One of your, somebody who was present at the U.S. Embassy, and I understand there are a number of other former hostages who have identified him formally. And again, you said, to quote Dr. Ganji, talking about the colonel who's not here today, saying that it was something that you knew because of his gestures, because of his eyes, because of his mouth, things like that. How is it that the U.S. government does not listen to you? Why does the U.S. government not listen to what you are saying, and how could they possibly come to any other conclusion than that of people who were physical witnesses to this man in the embassy?
Oh, I can begin, and I would say that I'm not a politician, and a lot of the people who are speaking to the national news media about this very subject are trying to have it both ways. But I would suggest that just last week, according to State Department spokesman Sean McCormick, it only took some intervention by the State Department in contrast and conflict with the Department of Homeland Security to finally issue the visa. And the State Department, as well as the Department of Homeland Security, have concluded that he is a terrorist. Now, whether they're going to come out and actually say, yes, we've actually identified him as one of those who was holding the hostages as well as one of our captors, is less important to me personally, because I don't feel that I personally need that kind of vindication. I was there. I do feel that I have adequately identified him both from his demeanor as well as his physical appearance on the day that I was first taken captive, involved in the interrogations and directing them. He's, to all of my understanding, not an English speaker, and so he was directing others who did speak English, ordering me to open safes. And from my perspective, I just think it's extremely important that the world understand that here he was in New York City today, spewing the kind of venom that he is so notably famous for. And frankly, I'm not sure how many people in this room are aware of this. During my time in the back of the room, it came to my attention that the entire United States delegation appropriately walked out as he took the podium today.
Good. Very good.
And it is very important, I believe, that we ask the government of Iran to apologize and to make remedy for the hostages and their families before the government of Iran is welcomed back into the community of nations. Because at this time it remains a pariah state, and the people of Iran and my colleagues and I have continued to in essence be held hostage to this kind of a government that continues to foment the kind of beliefs that they have. Barry?
I myself was not interrogated by Ahmadinejad, but from the people that I spoke to, my colleagues, they maintained that he was the man who had interrogated him. So that's good enough for me. And in discussions with the State Department in the last month, the State Department did request interviews with all of the former hostages. And indeed, after that discussion, that was the point when the State Department more or less said that he was a terrorist and that they were not going to disagree with the former hostages who indeed were sitting there vis-a-vis Ahmadinejad. So, in point of fact, the State Department has agreed that if the hostages say he was a terrorist, he did in fact behave as a terrorist, then he is a terrorist.
Thank you for making that clarification, because it has not been clear from the press reporting that is the case.
Well, I think the press has adequately reported that the State Department did not want to give him a visa because he was considered a terrorist. The problem is there is a UN agreement with member nations that as a head of state he is permitted to come to the United States only if he receives a visa. He received a visa in Bern, Switzerland, to come to the United States. But because of his position as a, quote, terrorist, he's only permitted to stay in a certain perimeter of hundreds of miles, 25 miles, whatever it is, from New York, and that's it. So he is not an individual who can travel anywhere in the United States. He, in fact, is considered by the United States as a terrorist.
And let us not forget that the Speaker of the Parliament was intending to travel as well and was denied a visa and concocted some lame excuse that he had other plans and he wasn't able to come after all, when in fact he was branded a terrorist as well, but because he's not truly a head of state, as in a president or a prime minister, he would not have been eligible for that kind of a waiver that is part of that hosting agreement that the United States has with the United Nations. So I think the State Department and the Department of Homeland Security, they still have some more work to do, but they're doing a pretty good job on that front overall. Would you agree
Now,
with that, Barry?
my part, what I have to tell you. We arranged 2 interviews for the former hostages on NITV going all over the world. This is about 3 weeks ago. Until then, the State Department had not said anything about terrorism, Ahmadinejad and terrorism. When Kevin, Dorothy, Sharer, Scott talked, and it went all over the world, we heard the State Department come out and say, Ahmadinejad is a terrorist, but we have to grant him a visa. That definitely, their statements there, because Iranians heard what they had to say in Persian. No, the State Department couldn't do anything else but recognize that he is a terrorist. So that's what took place. I want to tell you that. Then the other thing, Ahmadinejad was only responsible for the military and the security officers of the embassy, not for others. So the important thing is to see the military and to see the security people. Ahmadinejad had nothing to do with the other hostages. He couldn't be with 454 at the same time. So those two things you have to take into consideration. Yes, you have a question.
Powers that legislation and justice and executive branch, they are independent. I wonder that why the Prosecutor General of America should not take action against people like Ahmadinejad for what he has done against the citizens of America and the former diplomats in the Embassy of America in Iran. This is, in my opinion, not right at all, that Prosecutor General should not take any action against this guy who has been a criminal.
You're talking about Secretary General of the United Nations?
No, Attorney General.
Attorney General.
Prosecutor General. Attorney General, sorry. Attorney General, why he should not take action against this person who is, Attorney General should not listen to executive, even to President of America. He should not listen to the State Department or anybody else. While I listened to your statement, which was very, really educational, that you told us, the audience, that what they have done to your colleagues in the embassy in those 444 days. I still think that this guy must not be left alone, and the Attorney General must, even if not, must do something in America in absentia. We cannot arrest him here. In absentia, we have to take his case and go to court against him and condemn what law says about what he has done to the American citizens. The same can be done in the international court against him if he comes to Europe, or I'm sure he one day will be in Germany, in England, and everywhere. That he should be arrested when he comes to those countries.
Well, you mean international criminal court?
Yeah.
Your question.
Okay, I know you understand the Iranian politics very well, and you lived it, and you've been here long enough. You know there's so much ignorance in the Western world about Iran, and still people think, they're just a bunch of losers in the Middle East where they still, don't have access to education, where you see a lot of empowered people over there too. What do you think the Iranian American community or people like, these gentlemen who have been there could do to educate the Western world and the American world and paint a better picture of what Iran really is and who Iranians are?
I'll let them answer the first question, then I'll come.
I actually would say that in part of your question, the opportunity that three of my colleagues and I had to speak on literally worldwide television a few weeks back, we spoke, although separately, not on the same interview whatsoever, we spoke with one voice, and to a person, those of us who were there, we loved the country, we loved the people of Iran. It's the 5 to 7 or 8% of the people who are right now ruling that country with an iron fist, who are putting down all of the movement toward a democratic type government, or a free and open society that really do not have the voice, and that's what we would like to see rise into a prominent position. President Bush, a few years ago during his State of the Union address, spoke about the axis of evil. He's speaking about the government. And it's not just a cute cliche. I really think that he means it. And we just need to make sure that the president and everyone who believes as the president does or has spoken, that we would see the people who are hopeful for a brighter future not be let down when push comes to shove. Because it's a wonderful country, and the people, we have been friends for generations, and we would like to see less of the, and I know exactly what you're talking about, because whenever I go out and I talk to Rotary clubs, at Kiwanis clubs, or in the high schools, inevitably people will stand up and suggest, well, you know, who cares? Who cares about Iran? Who cares about the Middle East? They're all just blowing themselves up, and it's the picture that we see on worldwide television, on national news media, of the person strapping explosives to their chest and walking into a bus or into the bazaar in downtown whatever city in the Middle East. And that's not the picture that Barry and I have, and the knowledge that we have of the person on the street, the person who we came to love and know.
Barry, you want to add to that?
I would say, you know, one of the biggest problems is reporting, and I think international journalists really don't get the opportunity to do the real story, because it's very hard to do the story in Iran, because you're constantly controlled by someone who is near you. So it's very, very hard to get the story out about what's going on in Iran. But I do think what is important is the expatriate community needs to do a better job in talking about who Iranians are, about the culture and society. For example, the British Museum is doing something really wonderful on the Achaemenid dynasty right now. It's lasting for about 3 or 4 months in London, and that's a tremendously important exhibit, because it talks about the forgotten empire, the Achaemenids, and it really is saying that the Achaemenids were not an authoritarian regime that the Greeks overthrew and Western democracy really won. It talks about how extensive that empire was and how open that society was. So it really talks about Iran, or the Achaemenid pre-Islamic Iran, in a far different way. And I think people need to get that connection, that Iran has a tremendous history, a long history. And as I think I said to you earlier, 26 years of repression is not old for Iran. I mean, the Islamic Republic of Iran, if you want to turn around and read Hafez, it's almost like Hafez all over again. What was Hafez talking about? When he was living in Shiraz during the 13th century, or 14th century, he was being bullied around by mullahs who were telling him he can't do this or he can't do that. So what did he write? He wrote the most antithetical material in the world about getting drunk and going into bars and things of that nature. So, and basically, Iran has never stopped in Iranian history, where Iranian liberties have always been stopped by some religious fanatics or so. And one of the great things about Iran, and I think Iranians should always be proud about, is their poetry and their literature. And I think expatriate Iranians need to be expounding that more than anything else. It's very hard to do it within Iran, but.
Thank you. You know, they want us, the regime actually wants us to have amnesia, to forget all these things that they have been doing. They want to atomize us, and they fear us getting together, because then we will have power when we get together. And that's what they have done. They have atomized us, outside and inside. And Iranians are getting together. And we are getting together with like-minded friends of ours, like the gentlemen who have been sitting here. That's the answer to your question. We have to get together.
Well,
and we have to leave aside who is going to be president, who is going to be Shah, who is going to... We have to liberate Iran first. First and foremost. And we have to believe in core rights of my friend from the Kurdish part of Iran or the friends from other parts of Iran. If we do that, we're going to be successful. These gentlemen have done a great service to us. Without them, CNN wouldn't have been here for nearly 2 hours and a half filming it. And the interest they are showing in this is because of them. So that's the thing.
Let me just add one thing, to that question, and that is, I think that Iranians really should understand the reason why this regime is lasting so long is because there isn't a leadership within Iran coalescing around issues of democracy, issues of human rights. It's because people are cowed and feared under this regime. This regime cuts off legs, arms of the body politic. The youth of Iran always takes the chance and then gets smacked in the face. It's middle-class Iran that needs to stand up in Iran and say, I'm not taking this any longer. They're not doing the job. They're not doing the job. The job is always done by young college students who then get beaten up, and then that's it, and no one protects them. It's only when Iranians feel like they did in the turn of the century, when the tobacco regime, that period in time, or during the Constitutional Revolution, when everybody got together and said, we're not taking it any longer. Or if you want to talk about why was the Shah overthrown, the Shah was overthrown because the entire nation of Iran had enough of the loss of liberty there at that time. Well, right now, whether it's the same situation or worse, I think it's far worse. The Iranians, I think, are just not capable at this moment of actually saying, we don't want this anymore. It's only when the nation itself, the body politic, says, I want to get rid of these horrible human beings who use Islam and pervert Islam in order to deny human rights, that Iran would be a free nation, an open country. Other than that, it will never happen. So, I mean, basically, Iranians need to stop fighting within Iran and outside Iran, as Dr. Ganji said, and come together on a simple thing. The simple thing is human rights and liberty.
The one thing that Iranians must know today, that beating your chest doesn't provide bread and butter and cheese. You can keep on beating your chest. And that the Islam of today, the Islam that Iranians will respect today, is the Islam of 21st century and not Islam of 7th century. I just read to you something earlier on, I hope you realized. That law of vengeance that cuts arm, plugs eye, cuts legs, and slashes individuals and everything. It has articles on homosexuality, that they kill an individual, but it has nothing about lesbianism. Why? Because in time of Muhammad, they couldn't even think of those things. But not today. Don't you see that? If you should tell them, I don't want to teach them to go after that. That's the kind of regime you have.
I have two questions for gentlemen. Question through you to the government. All of us probably know that Ahmadinejad is a terrorist that's in our country now. Normally, if a terrorist comes to the country, if he makes appointment or meeting secretly for other people of our nation in here, or people that are guests in the nation, in here, in this nation, what will happen? Why he has to secretly does this? Because we have information, Mr. Ahmadinejad is going to see some Iranian in here. If he doesn't move in 25 miles, it must be they come to the 25 miles. And for your information, today when with my friend we went to have a breakfast, to have a lunch. In there I saw someone, American, Persian American like me, Iranian American, that he has a company in Arizona. He works He worked before with the Iranian government for computer, and now he has a program that doesn't come television, doesn't broadcast in America, but broadcast to the Iran. And you can see it, Iranian government television that broadcasts from Arizona, with the money that Iranian, not Iranian people, but American, they pay for it. Because this guy is American, and instead of goes for American people, goes against American government. And nothing happened. In the last 5 years that we were in broadcasting in Iran, we saw a lot of this thing. Second, as a just person of the war, free war, I'm asking, if superpower like America, mullahs in Iran, take your people for 444 years, and you don't do 440 days, and you don't do anything about it, you think the other people will not going to start to encourage their sons to down? Now we're going to send the terrorists, we're going to end their city, we're going to kill all Americans, and they cannot. And they say it every day, sorry my language. They said, you know what I'm saying. So, why? What's wrong? What happened that America every time would stand for their freedom and security? The last years didn't do anything about this government, and met the government that goes more and more further and further, more dangerous for all the people of the world.
That's a complex, I mean, the questions you're asking are so complex, you know, historically and geographically that, I mean, that are impossible to answer at this moment. But I think the best thing to do is to ask members of our administration right now, rather than us, why they haven't done anything, really.
I think one thing all of us agree, U.S. needs to have a more robust policy vis-a-vis.
Exactly.
There is no question.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, actually, my question was sort of a follow-up on what you were saying. If you had, each one of you guys had maybe 30 minutes to talk to President Bush, or maybe the U.S. Congress, to develop a new policy in regards to Iran, what would you tell them about maybe Iran and the way to maybe change the policy, and perhaps about the Iranian people?
Well, I'm actually going to leave the policy discussions to my personal politics aside from tonight's comments. But I would express the fact that just like 230 years ago, Americans, British subjects, if you will, had a dream of a city on a hill and dreamt about the things that you as Iranian Americans believe, and that is in prosperity and freedom and faith and family. The image that you see on television from Iran, the images, are not at all like what goes on in the homes of the average person in Iran. The average person in Iran also wants to build a city on a hill, the shining city. Family, faith, a responsible government, a brighter future for their kids and the next generation. That's the human spirit. And one would hope that we would have a policy moving forward that recognizes that that is the goal of the average person in Iran, just like if we can look back on our history in this country for people who helped to found the kind of government that most of us are pretty proud of here.
I'd only say that, that the policy of the United States ought to be one, if I were advising anybody in this administration, and I don't particularly think that they'd listen to me, but constantly one of containment. That is, Iran needs to be contained.
Oh, absolutely.
In every mode possible. That is, make life as difficult, and it's hard for the Iranian people to understand that, but
it hasn't worked.
It hasn't worked, but it can over time. I mean, Iran needs to be stripped of its ability to do things that hurt its people within the country. It needs to be more active human rights policy from the United States and Europe. I think more than anything else, the weak link in this whole situation are our European allies. European allies have a tremendously good relationship with Iran, not because they like Iran or they like what they're doing, but it's a very profitable business to work with Iran. And it's only when the United States can work closely with its allies in containing Iran. Now, push comes to shove right now is the issue of the whole nuclear proliferation issue. Will our European allies work with us, bring it from the IAEA to the UN, or will they not? And I think this is what we'll see right now. I think, look, we know that without the Europeans, a really formal, a very good policy cannot be produced vis-a-vis the regime in Iran. So really, that's what we need to see in the future.
But of course, U.S. needs to show leadership.
Yes, yes.
And on that front, speaking of the nuclear ambitions of the current regime, I guess I can think of few more frightening things in this world than a nuclear-armed malacracy. Someone asked earlier today, we were at a gathering outside of the Iran mission to the UN.
Explain that.
We had a vigil that lasted for about an hour and a half.
In front of the
Iran mission to the UN up on 3rd and 40th, I believe.
Right.
And we were wanting to draw attention to the fact that for 25 years, the regime has not been held accountable. And somebody from a news outlet asked me, why now? Why after nearly 26 years? And the best response that I can give is, it's never too early, but it's been too long. It's about time that these kinds of messages get communicated, and here with all of the attention for the president of Iran to be here was the time. And you cannot take a man from Tehran, dress him up in a suit to make him appealing to Western news media, take the turban off, and pretend that he's anything other than what he is. He is a part of a terrorist state, and our government has a responsibility to take this message to the UN and bring these European countries on board and ask them to stand beside us in opposition to the ambitions that that country has under its current leadership.
I would also say to the President, Mr. President, the Islamic Republic, they are all total chameleons. Remember that. That's it. If you want to formulate policy, take that into consideration. This is Sami.
It's good.
It was mentioned that it's incumbent on the middle class to join in with the youth who have always taken on the burden or the weight of change in Iran. And that there has to be a coalescing of the forces to change the regime, like after the tobacco regime, like at the constitutional revolution. However, there's an element that wasn't mentioned. It's that the Iranian expatriates need to be more united.
Yes.
Because if they are not united, the Europeans, the Americans, the various different foreign supporting powers will say, why should we take the risk in supporting a system that is not being supported by Iranian expatriates themselves, because they cannot unite themselves? How do you envision motivating a unifying trend among Iranian expatriates? It's something that's been our Achilles heel since the beginning.
I think probably I can answer that question. I think the function today is one indication. We have had here from the Kurdish Democratic Party We have had our Assyrian citizens of Iran. We have had the Jewish community here. We have had the Americans, and amongst you all, we have had the Republicans, monarchists, and all kinds. A function of this kind, without a flag of this or that as president or Madam President or Mr. King and that sort of thing. Leaving that aside, you can accomplish what you want to accomplish. But what you had here 5,000 people, so-called Iranians. They were mostly of other nationalities too today, and having a plan that your leader immediately becomes provisional head of a state, Maryam Rajab, for 6 months. And that after 6 months you're going to decide what you're going to do. That sort of thing will never bring opposition together. And the Iranians inside Iran are going to do the business, the work, and liberate their country without all this kind of hullabaloo. So I think the function today is one, no, let me say this. Mr. Ahmadinejad's election has helped the Iranian opposition greatly. And you should be grateful that he was put as the head of the Islamic Republic.
See, in Tehran, it has to be with another government, a government that believes in human rights, a government that believes in open society. Until and then, I think that embassy should stay shut. There's no reason, but I would like to go to a new embassy in a new Iran, a new democratic Iran, but not this place. This place is just, for me, out of this world. And for most Iranians, it's out of this world. It really, I can't believe in my own mind's eye that of all the places in the world that it happened in Iran. It's because people were asleep. People were asleep. The middle class in Iran were asleep all the time. And they sat there, and to a large degree, I have to say, that they accepted a repressive government in Iran for many, many years, and kept their mouths shut as long as they kept their stomachs fed. And then it was really the mullahs who understood what was going on and the weakness in the society, and they were the ones who took it. And it's only when Iranian middle class really says enough is enough, and they're going to fight for their country, not run from their country, will Iran be free. And it doesn't mean that the United States will ever be involved in that. I think Iranians need to understand that, yes, the United States can take the leadership in the international community, but it's Iranians that must take the first step. Without that, there will never be a free Iran.
Very good. I agree with Mr. Rosen, Professor Rosen, but I want to say one thing. Iran is part of this world. The world has become so small. One cannot let the generals in Myanmar do whatever they want to do with people of Burma. And one cannot let these people in Iran do all the things, the criminal acts that they are committing against the Iranian people. And that area is a very sensitive area. And the United States has a great deal of national interest involved. So US government should have a proactive policy of support of freedom movement in Iran.
That's true.
You can't only say that it is up to the Iranians. Iranians want to get rid of this regime. But that regime kills, tortures, and invests in having Afghani militia, Iraqi militia, Palestinian militia, and others to kill people, if Iranians won't do it. So we have to help the Iranian people. Let me say one thing here. This function was supported only by the Iranian people. We received not a single penny from any government. None. All of it by the Iranian people. I'm grateful to those who made contributions through a program we have on the NITV that made this possible. Let's move on, let's support, let's create our own organizations and support it without waiting for foreign governments to come and help us. I think it is late, time for us to break, so we are last question.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ganji. My name is Sattar Deda. I come from the Apadana International TV. We broadcast the Persian program for all the world like NITV, Mr. Zia. I have a question. Actually, you talk about the politics today and tomorrow, yesterday, about the future. I'd like to know, this is the first time we see actual hostages from the Persian community, Persian television here. I'd like to say something to our people. What was the most pleasure memory, Barry and Kevin, you have from Iran? Let's talk about if you have a good memory about the Iranian people. The best one.
Well, I mean, I came to Iran as a 23-year-old after getting a master's degree in political science, and I came there as a Peace Corps volunteer. I was making $40 a month in Iran, living in a little apartment in Tehran, and working every day at the university, or in the summertime working with little boys and girls in the Caspian Sea. My memory is of a warm, decent society, a very warm family, close friends, people loving food and loving to laugh, and a society even then, at that time, which was so surprising to me as an American, where policemen were on bicycles, and that people didn't do anything. That is, there was no crime. There was no real crime in Iran because the local community would frown upon that. They would feel that was not being, a good Iranian. And so, to a large degree, the pleasure I felt was that I was living in a land that was very sweet. It was very shireen, as Iranians say it is. And the hospitality and the warmth was overwhelming. And so, it's very interesting. Maybe it has to do with I'm Jewish, and a lot of Peace Corps volunteers who lived in Iran were Jewish and Southerners, and they said that they had the best time in Iran. We liked food and we liked to laugh a lot, and I think the same exact thing the Iranians like to do all the time too. And I never felt any real problems at all in Iran at that time, even during the early period of the Shah. I mean, one could never know. Some of the mistakes that he made, or some of the remedies he might have made Iran one of the most interesting countries today, if he had just been a little bit more thoughtful at that time. Because Iran was moving very quickly into the 21st century. I mean, I remember feeling very good about seeing Iranian women walking around without, a chador. Women really having the opportunity to work in ministries, or even being ministers, or people having jobs that were moving people out of the 19th century into the 21st century, and that is all gone right now. But I can tell you that I don't have bitterness towards the Iran that I knew as a young man. It's the bitterness toward these absolutely absurd, hysterically, I think, wrong, ideologically wrong, and pathetic human beings who promised a better world for Iran and have turned that world into a hell. And using Shia Islam, perverting Shia Islam. In fact, we all know most of the mujtahids in Iran, most of the leading mujtahids in Iran, don't agree, or never agreed with the concept of the idea that there ought to be a supreme leader. The Velayat al-Faqih is absolutely ridiculous in Shia. Most Shia mujtahid would say this is absurd. This is absolutely absurd. There's no role, even very small role, in Islamic Shia philosophy about the role of a Velayat al-Faqih. It's Khomeini's own little dream world that he brought up, and you have to give him the credit. He had the strength and the intuition to bring thugs together to destroy a society.
Barry, no hard feeling about the real people, real
No,
Iranian people.
I have no hard feelings about Iranian people. I have hard feelings towards those who imprisoned me, and I have hard feelings towards the government of Iran, the current government of Iran, for being atrocious, for being the worst of it, one of the worst of its kind in the world. The people in the street did not imprison me. It's Khomeini and those students following the line of the Imam, and people like Abbas Abdi now who tell me he's sorry. He was in jail, now he's free. But he told me in 1998, I'm sorry, Barry, for what I did to you. Well, he ought to be sorry because he not only imprisoned me, he imprisoned many Iranians who were liberals, who were tortured and killed under this regime. He should be ashamed of himself, even now, calling himself a reformer.
Would you say something in Farsi to all Iranian? Just few words, please.
Kevin, no, do you have any
I
hard feeling?
have enough.
I was just going to say that I arrived in the country 3 months before we were seized. I want to congratulate you for asking the first original question that has ever been asked of me in about 20 years.
Thank you.
I was invited to dinner at people's homes. I loved going up into the mountains with my colleagues, and I loved going to the bazaar. I loved meeting the people. I went to the bowling alley. I went to the places where the only, well, I didn't know that, but I did things that I liked to do with people who I believed genuinely cared about me and were interested in me as an American and as a person. And that's how my relationship was with the average person on the street, who I worked with, who I got to know, and I thoroughly enjoyed those first 3 months that I was there. And like Barry, my animosity is toward that very small percentage that I mentioned earlier, who basically have helped the country of Iran to march boldly into the 15th century for the last 20 years. And hopefully that will reverse itself.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our meeting. Let me thank Kevin Hermaning, Dave Rader, who is not here, Barry Rosen, Bob Moore, our dear friend Thomas Langford, who didn't come and talk, but he was all along standing there. He's here.
He just left.
He just left. And Mr. Morteza Esfandiari, Mr. Joseph Pirayov. Sorry, we didn't give them enough time. Pirayov has a long story to tell. I hope Iranian media would invite him, and other media would invite him to tell his story. Mrs. Shahnaz Qolizadeh, Mr. Ruzbe Faranipur, who couldn't stay because their plane was going back, Mr. Albert Purat. We loved hearing your story. I wish we had more time to listen to you more. And William Doherty, and Don Scherer, and Colonel Scott. We have created a bond between us and them. They can help a lot. They can help a lot towards being a voice of freedom-loving Iranians in the United States more than they have been. And I hope this is a beginning of that. Let me also thank the CNN for having been kind enough to come, and Iranian media for having been kind enough to come here today to report it.
And the Washington Times.
And the Washington Times, I thank them, and also the New York Sun, I thank them. Is there anyone else I should say? The Iranian media. I like to thank, I'm not going to say their last name, but I want to thank Saeed, I want to thank Farid, I want to thank Masood, I want to thank Dara, I want to thank Dawood, I want to thank Ali, I want to thank Dr. Etbar, I don't know your first name. I want Ramin, yeah, Ramin. I want to thank Mrs. Yashar, and I very much like to thank Mr. Purat. I came to love you, and the story you had to tell was so moving, and Mr. Purat. So thank you very much for having made this a very successful day.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you.
Very well done.
Kevin, may I make a suggestion?
Yes.